the branches of these trees and I whittled them down into these little deer. And he said, I call them my faith deer, and these are the deer. And so he said, would you be interested in purchasing any? Yes, I would like to purchase your faith deer. I don't even know what to say at that point.
This is Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. Those moments when heaven and earth collide and we see God, we see His hand reaching out to us, attempting to get our attention, inviting us into a closer relationship. Here we share stories of encounter with angels, divine intervention, prophetic dreams, visions, near-death experiences, big and little God incidents. I am your host, Trapper Jack. Welcome to episode 103. Hope you're doing... Oh, wait a minute. Should I get back here? I know. Should I... About 6 feet? Little social distancing. This won't bother you, will it? No, good. All right. Because there's our title to our episode there. God ignores social distancing, as is proven in these episodes. Amazing what He's doing in people's lives, how God speaks to His people. He always has. We're all actually being taken back to the basics, I think. When you were growing up, how many times did your mom say, and how many times have you said, did you wash your hands? We're about to eat. Did you wash your hands? And stop touching your sister. He's touching me. Stop touching your sister. Now, don't touch anybody. Don't even touch your own face. And creativity. The COVID-19 Sound of Music parody, where they take the Julie Andrews song, the a doe, a deer, a female deer, and teach us the basics of not getting COVID-19.
Do not fear, but please stay here. Stay at home now, everyone.
Very, very creative. It's just very, very creative. So I've mentioned how music bubbles up in my head during the course of a week, seemingly out of nowhere. And we know where that nowhere is. And so what song do I get this week? I get the original. I get Julie Andrews, Sound of Music, doing the do, re, mi, do, a deer, a female deer song. Why?
But in my dream, I was a mama deer, and I was running, and there was two of my little baby fawns running behind me, and one of them got shot and killed.
And this played over and over?
Yes, I think it was the trauma. I just had the dream all night long.
To help understand this traumatic dream, which is actually also a touched by heaven moment, we have to go back 5 years, and we'll do that in a moment. But first, I want to introduce you to Jena, who was out and about searching for a podcast like this for a couple of years.
I'd been looking for places that had people that were telling stories like mine, and kind of for, I don't know, I wouldn't say validation, but, certain people, I think, just here, when I would tell them the story, would just say, oh, that's nice. That's an odd coincidence. But so, yes, it's been really nice.
Jena grew up Catholic, and then life happened. She went off to college and got a little more college, meets a guy, gets married, has some kids.
But, we still considered ourselves good Christians, not great Catholics at the time, good Christians. But, yeah, so we had four children. And by surprise, I got pregnant with a fifth child. And so ultimately, we were really excited.
One morning, when Jena's husband was out of town, something was not right.
I just didn't feel the baby moving. And so I kind of knew deep down that there was a problem, but I called my doctor, and it happened to be a Saturday, and he just kind of said, well, these things, maybe the baby switched positions, but he said to go in and get checked, and that's when I found out there was no heartbeat.
How close to your delivery date were you?
I was 30 weeks pregnant, so I was in the third trimester, and I had no complications, and the baby was healthy and all of that. So it was just one of those things that they say, we just don't know why that happens or why this happens. But it was pretty traumatizing, to say the least, for me and my husband and my family and everybody, really. So I had the baby, and
how do they do that? Do they induce? How do they do that?
Yeah, they do. So actually, there's just a terrible procedure that they do because I was 30 weeks and I wasn't quite full term. My body wasn't acting like it was going to go into labor or anything. So they do this procedure. It was like almost like any other labor. I labored all day and I had him at night. And he was, perfect, beautiful little baby.
You wanted to see him.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I had them put him right on my chest. They asked me, they said, "Do you want us to take him and wash him?" I said, "No, I just wanted him." And both my husband and I the first thing we said was, "Oh my gosh, he is so perfect." Because he was. And I mean, he looked just like our other boys. And,
Oh, the grieving had to be horrible.
yeah, it was, it was a, it was a trauma. And it was also, yeah, the grieving was just, I've never experienced anything like that. So, and my kid, especially my oldest son at the time, let's see, Colin he was 9, and he really wanted to see the baby. And we had debated whether, and I just thought, oh, I don't know. But, so we let him come. And of course, he had to come to the hospital right after delivery. So he saw the baby and held the baby. But he was the only one of my kids because I just felt the others were too young to really comprehend. But yeah, so we all had a really rough time, and I would say.
Which now brings us back to that dream again, where Jena's the mommy deer, and she's got her 2 baby deer romping behind her.
This is where the story kind of starts for me because the night after I delivered, I was just having these just repeated, vivid dreams where, I mean, and it, how dreams don't always make that much sense, but in my dream, I was a mama deer and I was running and there was 2 of my little baby fawns running behind me and one of them got shot and killed. So, and I don't know why, but I guess that's how I was interpreting, or processing.
And this played over and over?
Yes, it was just, yes. So it was just, I think it was the trauma. I just had the dream all night long. Also, and I don't know if this is just something from my childhood that maybe comforted me and just came up, subconsciously or what, but there was also hymns playing alongside of it in my dreams, which was I remember one of them was "Be Not Afraid." And so I kind of remember that. And that's the important part of the story because from then on, I kind of just, saw fawns as is the way that I was processed, my baby that I lost. And I really struggled. The next few months were, I just was really having a hard time.
Jena couldn't help but notice how often she would spot deer. They just seemed to be always around, always off on the side of the road, always off over there in the woods. There were just seemingly a lot more deer these days.
We do have fawn here in Virginia, so it wasn't that big of a deal, but it did make me feel a little bit at peace,
A month after her son Asher had died, Jena went back to church looking for comfort, looking for some way of understanding all of this.
And I walked into the church and I was just sobbing because I felt like in my heart, I thought, he's with, I was thinking he's up there with Jesus and Jesus has him and Mary has him. But, I was confused. And I thought, everything happens for a reason. And I don't understand this, this doesn't make sense to me. But when it started getting really crazy, it was actually I got pregnant 7 months after this. I got pregnant with another baby, and so it went. Anxiety went through the roof. I was just a wreck. I was seeing therapists, and I had a really rough time.
Then more anxiety. She gets an infection. She's at 37 weeks in the pregnancy. Wouldn't it be easier just to induce now instead of putting the baby at risk?
The baby would be safer out, in my mind, the baby would be safer out than in at this point. But they didn't want to do that. So I went home and I just needed to go. So I went for a walk and I was just trying to clear my head. And as I'm walking, all of a sudden, right beside me, this is on a busy street, there's like a sidewalk I'm walking on. Right beside me, there's a row of houses with yards. Well, this little fawn was standing right there in the yard right beside me. And I kind of just stopped because it was unusual that the fawn didn't seem to move or pay any attention to the fact that, I'm standing right there.
How close?
I mean, I was within 1 to 2 feet of him. Yeah. And so I kind of stopped and just looked at him, and he looked at me, and
No mommy around?
no mommy. I was looking, I thought, oh gosh, where's the mom? But there was no mom. It was just kind of one of those really weird moments where I thought, oh my gosh, yeah, I don't know why, but I just, it brought me like this sudden just peace. In the moment, I just thought, hey, maybe this is a sign that he's saying, we've got this, we have your baby, and we're going to protect the one that you're pregnant with. It's, kind of where my mind went.
Jena pulls out her phone, takes a couple of pictures. People won't believe how close this deer was, and then starts heading back to the house.
Even stranger, I opened my front door, and this is where it kind of sounds ridiculous. There is a stuffed animal of a fawn sitting right inside my front door on the entryway carpet. I have never seen this before in my life. I mean, my kids have lots of stuffed animals, but never a deer. And of course, my first thought was, where did this come from? Which one of the kids, had it, and why would they throw it here? And so I was asking everybody, I said, hey, where did this come from? Whose is this? And they said, I don't know. We just saw it laying there. And, none of the kids seem to claim it as theirs, which when you have 4 young children, they usually fight over everything. And even if it's not theirs, it's theirs.
Yeah, it's mine now. Yeah, it's mine.
Exactly. That was mine. That must have been mine.
They had all seen it.
They'd all seen it. Nobody claimed it. And so it's just sitting there. So, of course, I pick it up and I thought, oh my gosh, this is just too weird for words. Here I am. I just came back from this weird experience with a fawn, and here's a fawn.
And by the way, since you had that dream, you have, I assume, repeatedly thought about that dream of one shot and one lives, and
yes.
And are you connecting dots like, okay, that's the one that died, and this is the one. Are you making that connection?
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure. I thought, well, who was the other one that made it? I didn't really make that connection. I was really just focused on the one that didn't make it.
Okay, so you're in the front door. You're carrying around. What color is your stuffed animal here?
Brown and white with the spotted back and everything.
Okay.
So I kind of take him up, and I place him. I had this spot where I have like in my closet where I had, pictures of the baby, and I had another thing a friend gave me anyways. I put him up there because I thought, you know what, I'm just going to take this as a sign to me. So I did that, and I ended up having the baby. His name is Maddox, my now 3-year-old. 2 weeks later, perfectly healthy, wonderful baby, amazingly calm child. I've never seen a baby like it. I mean, he literally did not cry for the first 12 days of his life. And I thought, something has to be wrong with this child. Why is he never crying?
So 12 days later, what rotten thing did you do to him that you made him cry?
He got hungry enough, I think, that, and I wasn't right there to feed him. So that was it. He let me know. And I thought, oh, thank gosh, he can cry. I thought.
This then brings about another touched by heaven moment. She needs to get out of the house.
Hormones are going everywhere, and I'm having a craving. I want Chipotle. So get my food, and I'm walking back out to my car. I get to my door handle, and I'm about to open it, and this lady, I hear this voice from beside me say, hello.
Jena's one of those people that people just love to talk to. Strangers come up and just start talking to her. It's just always been around her for some reason.
And so this was, I can be in literally like a grocery store anywhere, and I must have that face that says, yes, talk to me.
Tell me your problem. Sure, go ahead. Yeah,
that's me. Yeah. So she starts talking, and she was telling me about how she has all these blood pressure issues, and I say to her, I said, oh, well, I said, I happen to know a lot about that. I'm a clinical exercise physiologist, and this man walks up to us. And, he's clean cut, nice haircut, kind of like gray hair, but he looked maybe in his late 40s, early 50s, jeans, tucked in, nice button-down shirt, and he's holding a box, and he says, "Can I just tell you guys something for a minute?" And so me and the woman said, "Sure," and I said, "Yeah, that's..."
Or would you like to trade the box for what's behind the curtain?
Exactly. Yes. I'm like, "Oh, what's he got in that box?" So he said, "I just want to tell you a story."
The story is that this guy and his wife were in a horrible car accident, got hit by a drunk driver. He's laid up, loses his job. He's laid up at home for a long time. They're thinking they might even lose the house.
And so he said, "What I did was I looked out back. We had a wooded line behind our house, and I thought, well, if Jesus could make things out of wood, maybe I can do something out of wood." So he says, "I took the branches of these trees and I whittled them down into these little deer." And that's the point where I thought, oh my gosh, what's happening?
He uses cottonwood trees, leaves the bark on, and then sometimes uses the twigs as the antlers.
And he said, I call them my faith deer because I made all these little deer and we were able to sell them enough that we kind of got back on our feet, and I was able to, re-enter the job force eventually. And it kind of, he was just saying how that saved them really financially. And so I kind of look in the box and there's all these little, literally perfectionist looking, whittled out of wood deer. He said, I just want to, I just want to spread the word because, Jesus came through for me, and and these are the deer. And so he said, "Would you be interested in purchasing any?" Yes, I would like to purchase your faith deer. I don't even know what to say at that point. It was one of those moments where I thought, this is just too bizarre for words. It was like $10 for two of them or whatever. So I got two. Those little deer have been, I've kept them in my bedroom up on my dresser, and I had them out. And of course, my kids being my kids, every now and then we go in there and be like, "Oh, look at them." I'm like, "Don't touch them." They're my faith deer.
Do you think, Angel? What do you think about this guy?
Well, I don't know. I just kind of, how I just feel like when something like that happens to you, I just had this feeling that it was meant for me, that whether he's a guy that sells faith deer or not, something else, that God wanted me to have that experience.
Don't you love the intersection of all this? I mean, the woman has to be there, interrupt you getting in the car, and he has to walk by at the certain time, and you have to want Chipotle at a certain time, and you go through all the what ifs that have to happen, and where does that put you in your faith and angels and God? What does all that do for you?
It really drew me closer. If anything, I'd never experienced anything like that before. All those things that were happening to me, and it kind of just, I was like, okay, there is something going on the other side. I may not know what it looks like exactly, but there's that God's got this. So it really did, in my faith just deepened, and also out of it, I became a volunteer photographer for an organization called Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. And we get called from hospitals or parents, and we go into the hospital and take photographs for families that either have babies that are passing away in the NICU or that were stillborn, or I've done several life support removal sessions now, and being in the room for those especially, you just, for me anyways, it's an honor and a privilege. And yes, I'm providing the service for them, and hopefully those photographs are something they can have memories of. But for me, it's just you cannot deny God when you're in a room when the little baby is passing. It's just, I just feel like, so through all of this, yeah, I would say it really deepened my faith and made me a better person.
Did you happen to go back to the episode that's called, is it The Angels That Walk Children into Heaven?
No, I haven't seen that.
Look for that one. A gentleman named Robert Riggy
Okay.
has a gift. He sees angels. And a lot of times when young kids are about to pass, they see angels too. And sometimes they'll say, "Mommy, Dad, don't you see the angels?" Well, Robert sees the angels also. So he's part of hospice out of Peoria, Illinois, I believe. And that's like one of his jobs is he can't make things all better, but he can help the parents transition, the child transition.
That's great.
What a gift and what a blessing. It still hurts. It still hurts. It's beyond all the pain. Well, you experienced. It's beyond. It's beyond all imaginable pain. But what he does and what you do helps. It helps.
Well, and people say all the time, I don't know how you can walk into a situation like that. And I say, well, having been there myself, I feel like I can relate. And sometimes it does really help the other families to know that not only am I there to do these photos for them, but I can really empathize with them, and so it's just really it's been healing for me just as much as I feel like I'm providing a service for them. So
yeah, you mentioned you've gone back into church since then. Have you stayed? Are you back? Are you?
Yes. And my kids and everybody are now attending church. We were actually at a Franciscan church.
Yeah.
So yeah, but just my relationship in general with God and I'm a huge Mary. I pray to Mary all the time. And every time I go into a session, before I go in, I sit and I pray to Mary, just to please help me provide whatever it is that these families need, in that moment. My relationship has definitely grown.
Wow. What a story.
It's definitely more than just a coincidence. And I feel like he comes to you in a way that you can understand. And for me, that was the way he reached me.
And also know too that child that didn't make it is in heaven right now. That's cool. And you believe that, don't you?
I do. I actually, tearfully, a couple months after I lost him, I went to a priest and I said, he wasn't baptized, before he died, because he died, stillborn. Of course, the priest said, no, in those circumstances, we believe that the baby goes straight to heaven. And, again, I would hope so.
I think of all the near-death experiences I've heard about where aborted children or children who died very early are there. They're seen. Yeah. And they're growing up in real life, in real age time. So if that was 3 years ago for you, how many years ago?
Yeah, it'll be almost 5 since I lost him. It'll be 5 in May.
Okay, so. And that's how old that child is, growing up in heaven.
Right.
I think that's so cool. I think that by all accounts, by everyone who's had these experiences, that's what I've heard. So, well, what a lovely story. What a lovely story.
Thanks.
Any final words here? Any comforting words for anybody?
I think the most comforting is that through great sorrow comes great joy, and it doesn't, I don't know, there's that saying about the carved cup, and the deeper the carved in the cup, the more joy it can contain, and I do believe that. My life has been, after I lost Asher, I think, and, I got through the initial phases of grief, I find greater joy in almost any, everything, so I think that was his gift to me was, just that.
Well, you made us all cry again, including yourself, so we're good.
Yeah, that's great.
That's what we do around here. Thank you, Jena. I appreciate this so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And the work you do. I didn't know that job existed, the taking of pictures. God bless you. And in terms of keeping social distancing, God just does not participate, does he? He is just in this so strongly. There he was in the delivery room with Jena and the baby and the husband and the son and the son holding the child. I mean, God was just there with his love. The next night with the dream, horrifying dream, but there's God. There's that hymn playing, Be Not Afraid. The calmness as she walked along the sidewalk with that deer, a sign of what was to come inside the door, right? And out of nowhere, this stuffed animal fawn is there, just part of that journey. And then the guy who appears out of nowhere with a box of deer. It's just God's hand throughout all of this, just guiding her, and then ultimately guiding her back into the church, of course, looking for comfort and solace and direction. And there's the church serving that purpose and so much more. So thank you again, Jena, for your story. Speaking of the church, there have been 4 other songs that have been playing in my head. They kind of rotate through. Here are the 4 songs. Willie Nelson, Stardust, dedicated to the one I love by Mamas and Papas, The Way We Were by Barbara Streisand, and the song that was in Casablanca, the As Time Goes By, you played it for her, Sam, play it for me. That song. They're all the same song, or the movie is the song. It's all the same. It's ache. It's pain, it's separation, it's something happened and there was a separation, but there's love at the core of it. And I'm going, what is that about? That's the church. That's us in the church right now, isn't it? The lights are off, doors are closed. We're out here, and it hurts for those of us who so want that gathering for worship or for the Mass and the Eucharist. It hurts, that separation. It's wonderful what all the churches are doing, of course, with the online stuff. It's amazing. Everyone's being forced into technology. Not a bad thing in this case of so many different services are out there now. You see the evil roots in this, right? You see the devil's hand in that virus that is a pandemic that closes all these churches around the world. We're the target. The church is the bigger target here, the church. Jesus said it. Don't worry about the one who can take your life. Worry about the one who can take your soul, your mind. That's part of this. Closing churches. Maybe the people won't come back. Closing churches. We're the target here. We're the bigger target here. But know something else. God allows for a blessed reason, and he's up to something. He is so up to something here. He's going to show his hand again big time at Easter. If we're watching, if we're looking, if we're listening, if we understand how God speaks to us, he speaks to his people, and he's going to be doing something at the tomb of Christ. This signal just keeps getting stronger and stronger for me. Holy Saturday. A place, the tomb, where fire always comes out of the stone where Jesus was laid. It's happened every year since the beginning of Christianity. This year, it's not happening. He needs to get our attention. He needs to get the church's attention. No fire this year. Patriarch's going to go in there, no fire. That just might make the news. The secular media, Christianity failed? Great, let's talk about it. Who knows, right? Who knows? And as I said on the video on Sunday, Trapper Jack Speaks channel on YouTube, Facebook page called Trapper Jack Speaks, on Twitter, Trapper Jack Speaks. And as I said it on Sunday, the patriarch's coming out of there with no fire. Now what do? He's calling the Pope. Check the video. I'll just say that. Just check the video. The Pope's going to get involved in this too. For a blessed reason, unification of the church. The first step in the unification of the church is beginning at the tomb of Christ, at what appears to be a failure. Will not be a failure. It'll be a beginning point. And pray for that day to be sooner than we think. Pray for that day. The beginning of this, or in the song dedicated to the one I love, it's, and each night before you go to bed, my baby, whisper a little prayer for me, my baby. Pray for the church to soon be able to open the doors to us all again so that ache can be removed, be united again, okay? I have a Patreon shout-out. Actually, 2, because I combined 2 names. I combined 2 people last week, which is against this social distancing. I got to separate these 2 people at least by 6 feet. So I combined the names of Sarah Abady and Julie Twardowski. I need to separate you guys now, and thank you both for your support through Patreon. Thank you so much. If you also feel blessed by the episodes and would like to help us out, just go to this episode 103 here at touchedbyheaven.net, or you can go to patreon.com and search for Trapper Jack. But thank you. I need your stories. You're the fuel for these episodes. Go to touchedbyheaven.net and drop me a note there. All right? And you have yourself a great week. Hang in there, okay? Okay. Should I back up for the... I hope I didn't get too close in there. Should I be back here a little farther? I'll see you next week here at Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack.